Well, good morning, everyone. Jeff DeVerter from Rackspace here. And today we are celebrating Veterans Day here in the US. And so we've got some great Rackers on who are going to talk about their experience, both on the recruiting side as well as somebody directly from the military itself. So I hope you can join us. We'll be live in just 30 seconds. Well, all right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff DeVerter, and I am the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology. And I'm so glad that you guys have joined us in this morning. It's going to be a different sort of a conversation, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think you're going to enjoy it as well. So let's talk about what's going to happen here. But first, I want to remind you that regardless of the platform you're coming in on, whether you're watching us over at LinkedIn or on YouTube or even on Twitter, that you can comment and we will see those comments. We'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, where you're coming in from. And today, of course, we want to know hey, good morning, LinkedIn user. We want to know, just comment in, are you a military veteran or currently in the military? I don't have a fancy poll for you today, but you can just let us know when you announce yourself down below. So now, as always, I want to encourage you to reach out to us if you have any comments or questions or topics you might even want to cover. Just send an email over to solve@rackspace.com. All right, everybody. Well, let's, again, today is a big thank you to our veterans, both here including here in the US, but also if you're a veteran of any of the military services all around the world, your country and us owe you a debt of honor. We're grateful for what you do and have done. Now, here at Rackspace, we take our veterans and their experiences and their participation in our culture in a very, very serious way. You can see here is an installation of the placards that we have up for all of our vets. And also, here's another view of that. But there's a rich community here. Now, today, you're going to get to hear from a couple of folks. We have David Miles, and we also have Shelby Davis here. Now, David is a technical support manager. You're going to get to meet him and hear about his experience, but also Shelby Davis. Now, Shelby is a recruiter here at Rackspace and is in charge of working in the program called HOH, Hiring Our Heroes. And that's how we help facilitate bringing in folks exiting the military into internships and grouped into cohorts that ultimately, hopefully, end up being here as full employees. So that's going to be a great part of the conversation. Guys, so many of you commenting here below. Clark Kent's back. Glad to always have Superman along for the ride. Samar, we're glad you're here. Balu. Oh, hey, retired USAF, Clark. Well done. Thank you for that. Chris from Virginia, glad that you're here. Josh, Jackson, Asama, we're glad that all of you are here. Make sure you're commenting. Tell us who you are. And if you have any questions for those Rackers that you see on your screen, start getting them ready because I'm going to give them a chance to talk to you guys here very, very shortly. All right. So with that, we move into what's new this week in cloud. So let's push all the right buttons, hopefully. And come on then. All right. Well, we'll just show this. And all right. So here's an interesting article out of eWeek. Now, it was no, this one's not out of eWeek. This one is from VentureBeat. Now, according to a recent survey by O'Reilly, cloud adoption is, of course, steadily continuing to rise. Shocker, right? Now it's at 90% of all companies reporting are active in their cloud transformation. Super big thanks to Megan as well. Megan's our producer this morning, and she's going to be putting links to all of these articles and updates in the chat down below. If you have any questions about those, comment in line down below or send an email over to solve That's our thought leadership program here at Rackspace, solve@rackspace.com. Hey, Hassan's from Minneapolis is here. Man, I bet it's getting cold in Minneapolis already. So Hassan, I hate to tell you, it's going to be 70-something degrees here in San Antonio today. Well, hey, back to our article here, and that is from O'Reilly, the 90% is how much the companies around the world are adopting cloud. Now that's up from 88 the year before, so it's a steady increase. The pandemic has certainly seen a huge amount of impact in the depth that they're moving out into the cloud. The interesting thing is the amount of adoption also in some industries that you might normally have thought, hey, I found why those buttons weren't working. Fantastic. It's early. It's Thursday. It's no excuse. But industries such as banking and healthcare, some other areas that have been a little bit slower to adopt technology, they're up to 75% consumption and utilization of cloud as well. Now, also in the news, last week was the Microsoft Ignite conference. Now, that used to be a big conference we'd all pack up and head to. They had it in some big venues like Orlando and Vegas and such. But of course, everything's virtual these days, and Microsoft continued that theme. But my friend Patrick Moorhead from over at Moorhead Research wrote an article for eWeek and talking about some of the changes that Microsoft has announced. Of course, if you're following all of this, they talked a lot about the metaverse. And we hear these words from in these terms from the likes of Facebook and such. But I think the thing that's going to be uniquely different when we think metaverse in the context of business is an amazing way, I think, to kind of glue the physical and the virtual remote workers together in a more consistent way. I'm going to be really interested to see how this all shakes out. Simon, you asked the question, do you have a physical presence in Australia? Yes, we do. We have a big old office down in Sydney. We have an office, it's not Australia, but it's over in New Zealand. And I think we have offices maybe elsewhere inside of Australia, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But yes, Sydney, Nigeria. We have Eno from Nigeria. So glad that you are here as well. Now, also, there's been some updates from Ignite that I want to talk about, but those are going to have to wait maybe more for next week. I'm going to bring in a Microsoft MVP who's going to talk about at length some of those updates. So I'm not exactly sure if that'll be a Tuesday or a Thursday. No, I know it's not going to be Tuesday, but maybe the next Thursday we'll have that person on. So watch LinkedIn for those announcements. Fantastic. All right, so let's bring it back here. Now let's talk about what is new from the cloud providers themselves. And I'm going to push all these right buttons. So let's start with AWS. Now over at AWS, the AWS Control Tower, it now supports concurrent operations for detective guardrails. Now, guardrails are ways to help ensure that you have all the right things done to your cloud infrastructure, like multi-factor authentication enabled at the root, and detect whether public write access for S3 buckets is allowed. All those sorts of things that can really get companies in trouble. In fact, if you remember back in October when it was Cybersecurity Awareness Month, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in America, we were all security all the time for the whole month. And every single guest that I brought on talked about how 75 to 80%, sometimes some will say 90, of the hacks that happen because basic things weren't done. Well, AWS Control Tower now supporting this detective guardrails and concurrency is really a big step forward for us. Now, also, general availability for AWS Resilience Hub. Now, this is exciting because what's happening is we are moving away from just having new cloud capabilities, but now having additive cloud capabilities that give us a deeper experience for those cloud-based resources in a programmatic way to help ensure that we're not going to get into trouble. That Control Tower example is a perfect one. Here's a second one, AWS Resilience Hub. How do you, in a programmatic way through their interface, be able to look and see how resilient your application is at the data layer, at the app layer, all throughout? So check that out. Megan has posted the link inside of there. Going to pause just for a second. We have got some Oh, we got a racker who was part of my presentation yesterday in Rookie-O. Hey, if you're following the threads, you'll see that Alan is a new employee of ours here at Rackspace. And you start in this multi-day event called Rookie-O, where you learn all sorts of stuff. And I get to present to those folks. Alan, glad you're here. Alejandro, yes, we do have offices in Mexico City, and we do have offices in India as well. I don't know exactly where in India, but we have them in India. But if you'll send an email to solve@rackspace.com, I can get you that information in short order. All right, now let's move over to Azure. General availability of Azure Archive rehydration priority update. Now, a lot of fancy words in there, but what we're ultimately talking about is being able to selectively choose from a priority point of view how we take those DR assets, rehydrate them, meaning turn them back into something that will run, and make them available then for your application. So being able to prioritize which ones come up first, which ones come up second, and so forth. So that's pretty awesome. All right. So, no, I'm sorry, we do not have offices in Nigeria, but I will tell you that we hire remote people all over the world. Also from Azure is SQL Server for Azure Virtual Machines, subnet high availability, generally available now. Now, this is cool because it is enabling us to create those on-premises experiences and how we might architect high availability through subnetting in an Azure context. Now, in the past, you would have had to have used an Azure load balancer to create a high availability experience. Now we can subnet that off and put them all in the same local network and do the same thing without having to spin up another Azure resource, which is great. Hey, welcome, Gerardo from Guatemala. Glad that you are here. I love a good Central American coffee. I love coffee. So that's my only connection to you, but I'm glad you're here. Now, over in GCP, they have Vertex Pipelines now in GA. Now, Vertex Pipelines are part of creating a pipeline experience for machine learning and training machine learning models. You'll see a link to a blog that Megan is going to post here shortly, and it's going to talk about all of those capabilities. And it's really cool because what happens is it's a way of scaling, training your machine learning models. And it does it through a series of workflows that are actually happening inside of containers. And the output of one container then feeds the next step in that. And of course, being containers, they can scale. Really some powerful stuff from GCP. Go check out that link. As well, also from GCP is a new capability to help ensure that you can enable SRE best practices. Now, this happens through contextual traces in cloud logging. Now, as you know, cloud logs, they're just gargantuan, but what their service does now is being able to comb through all of those and give you cloud tracing in context, regardless of where it's come from. This is going to, it's going to be a huge benefit to your SRE engineers and going to be able to meet those best practices. So go check out that link that Megan has just posted for you. All right. So with that, those are the updates from the cloud. Very active here in the chat. Keep that going. And now we're going to take it down into the cloud discussion. And it's my great pleasure now to bring a couple of rackers up into the conversation. First will be David Miles. And maybe we'll just start with David at first, but then Shelby's going to come along as well. Now, but Megan, let's go ahead and bring David up to the stage here. And what I'm excited for David to sort of tell you the story of is, first of all, to be able to tell his story of how he of his military experience, because this is in the United States Veterans Day, and it's a time when we step back and we honor those who served us, regardless of how long, lifers or even shorter, somewhere shorter than that. But the military plays a huge part in all of our lives and impact. So David, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm glad
David,
to be
thank you
here
so
today.
much for your service. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what took you to the Navy and your experiences there?
Sure. Yeah, I was born here in San Antonio, Military City, USA, right? And so my whole life I was surrounded by military, right? My
Mm.
father was Air Force. He retired 22 years in the Air Force, enlisted. My biological father was 20 years in the Army, and
Wow.
my uncle was a Marine. So surrounded by military. And then in high school, I was the corps commander for my Army JROTC program. So naturally, I enlisted in the Navy. So
Naturally, that makes perfect sense.
right.
David, logic. You mentioned when we chatted before that the military helped you with your maturing and so forth. So hopefully that will have helped.
Sure, sure. I joined as a kid, right out of high school. I graduated in '93, and from San Antonio, I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois, in December of '93. It
Wait,
was
from San
very
Antonio to Great Lakes in December.
Yes, in December. So, San Antonio is known for having maybe 2 weeks of winter, and just north of Chicago is very cold for a very long time. It
Yeah,
was
we have a global
snowing in
audience, so
April.
thanks for that.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was still snowing, I think, in April when I was there. So I spent a year between boot camp and A school. Right, my A school was gun school. I was a gunner's mate, third class petty officer in the
Yeah.
Navy. So I spent a year in Great Lakes, Illinois, and then I was stationed at the Naval Magazine in Guam for 3 years. And then, like I said, I joined as a kid, right out of high school.
Right.
And what my time in the military gave me was much needed structure. I in my current role, it requires a lot of attention to detail and organizational skills that an 18-year-old kid doesn't necessarily have. Right, so I developed those skills in the Navy. And I think one of the other elements, right, like the one of the key elements that I learned in people leadership is people, right? The
Yeah.
people and building relationships. And so that's incredibly important. And you're thrown into this environment of, hey, here are a bunch of new people you have to meet and work well with. So it was the military was very good in the life education realm.
Yeah. I would think so. So you do your 4 years, and but Rackspace wasn't your first step coming out. So you had a short stint. You had a 12-year stint somewhere else. But
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think, and just to touch back on gaining what I gained from the military, um, is I did my 4 years. I actually requested, when it came time for reenlistment, I requested a minesweeper out of Kingsville, Texas, so I could be closer to San Antonio, right, closer to
Yeah.
home. But all they had for me was ships out of San Diego, so I decided to get out. Um, but but what I wanted to touch on there is, I got out as a still single guy at the time.
Yeah.
So I was able to save money, and really focus on education, right? And through the GI Bill, I was able to get an associate's degree in applied science for radio, television, and film technologies.
Okay.
And I went to work for a radio station, right? So that's where I first began my working career outside of the military, right? But it was all predicated on the education
That's right.
that the military allowed me to get, right?
Well, they did help you mature. As a single guy who saved money to spend on education. That's a huge thing. As a
Yeah.
father of a couple of younger single guys.
Very cool. So I did spend 12 years at the radio station, Cox Media Group, which is a local San Antonio media company. And they have about six radio stations, I believe, 6 or 7 radio stations here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
The first half of that, the first 6 years, I was in on-air programming, right? Between
Mhm.
promotions and actually on air, right? I was a morning show producer for Magic 105.3 FM. And so I did that for about 5 to 6 years. And then I transitioned to technology, right?
Yeah.
I became a Windows systems administrator for all of the radio stations there. And that's where I started to once my time with the radio station ended, that's when I became interested and introduced to Rackspace, right? And I
Okay.
think the important thing to denote is that right away, as soon as I came to Rackspace, I could feel the camaraderie and
Mm.
fellowship of military service, right? Um, right away, I had the support and care from other rack vets.
Yeah.
So you posted, you showed the rack wall, right? The
Yeah.
rack vet wall. I honestly have to say it was a moment of great honor and pride when my plaque was added to that veteran wall.
That's awesome. Well, it's a great pride that we have you working with us. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Now, we also help bring transitioning vets directly out of military as part of established programs into Rackspace. And here to tell a little bit about that, because while we are on the receiving end, these are programs that are part of the military. So let's bring Shelby up. Now, Shelby is a recruiter here at Rackspace. Shelby, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Well, so you help you help with this whole hiring our heroes program. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when I came to Rackspace, this was actually a totally new dynamic to me that I hadn't yet gotten the privilege to be involved in. But we had actually already established a relationship with a program called HOH, which is Hiring Our Heroes, as well as another program called EWI and another called SkillBridge.
Okay.
So all of those differ just a little bit in kind of the duration and the way that they work. But essentially, the gist of it is that we do help facilitate transitioning veterans to just get some exposure in the corporate world.
Okay.
One of the major things that I wanted to bring to the program was really just to help facilitate questions around resumes, interviewing, things that I think most people think might be kind of common sense, but can be really, really intimidating when you've been in a totally different environment for 10, 20 plus years. So
Yes.
ultimately, my kind of priority and goal was to just help assist with what questions do you have on your resume? Are you terrified to interview? Why? Let's talk about it. This is what you can do. This is what makes it better. But it has been a lot of fun just getting to help facilitate even those who maybe didn't end up coming to Rackspace, but just
Right.
knowing that, we helped in their career.
Just to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as part of that, we talk about cohorts or these internships. I mean, ultimately, as I understand it, then they're able to take that last 6 months of their tour and work in the corporate world as an intern, working on specific the stuff that you're even just talking about. Maybe you can talk about the process involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So within the HOH program in itself, they have about 3 cohorts yearly. So
Okay.
what that means is that our representative, her name is Olivia, they meet with people, they make sure that their transition dates align and set them up with a cohort. At that point in the year, they then send us about 50 to 60, I would say, resumes of candidates who are open, willing, and available to take corporate fellowships. And that's what we call them as our fellows at Rockspace.
Got it.
So at that point, I take the time to personally speak with every single person just to kind of gauge, how are you feeling about this transition? Is there anything you specifically have your eye on? Sometimes people have a dead set timeline and what they want to do and what they're looking to get into. Other times people say, I have no idea. I just kind of want to check it out and see what maybe sparks my interest. So really just taking the time to have that conversation with them and help facilitate what they're looking for to get out of this fellowship. From there, we worked with all of the hiring managers within Rackspace to see who needed people, where they could fit in, where they would maybe be a good fit, projects that were going on within Rackspace, and from there, then facilitate interviews. So they went through a entire resume building, interviewing process, and potentially some of them all the way to an offer. The HOH program is about, I want to say, 6 to 8 weeks that
Okay.
you're with Rackspace. So it goes by very, very quickly. And then from there, if there were full-time opportunities, we were able to assist in that aspect. If not, then we cheered them on as they moved on to their other opportunities. Within the Skill Bridge and the EWI program, those are a little bit different in that one is about a 6-month stint and the other is about 10. So those are more so kind of internship programs that they can do and be in for a very long period of time that also attributes to their schooling that they're currently working on.
That's great. Well, and if people want to learn more about that, again, just reach out to us at solve@rackspace.com. We'll make sure that those questions and emails get forwarded along appropriately. But David, back to you. So we're so glad that we have you here at Rackspace. Tell us a little bit about the role that you're in and the impact that being a part of the military has had in the way that you are doing what you do here at Rackspace.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit, right? But I've been with Rackspace Technology now for over 8 years.
Okay.
And in that whole time, I wasn't always a technical support manager. Matter of fact, just digging into that history a little bit, I said I was a Windows systems admin at Cox Media Group. Um, uh, when I left there, another Rackspace opportunity, right? We had the Open Cloud Academy, which I didn't know Linux at the time, right? But I learned Linux through Open Cloud Academy and came to Rackspace through the TNT program, right? One of our, learn and get a job. And so I joined through a technical path, right? And in that time, I learned a lot about what it was to lead within Rackspace, right? But I was able to pull from the experiences that I got in the Navy.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I talked about with attention to detail is big, right? There's a lot of little things that happen all the time, all day, and then so being organized also helps with that, right? But I found a passion for wanting to build relationships and lead people to better develop themselves and better take care of our customers and the business as a whole. So I became a technical support manager, and I right now currently I am managing for our Windows operations engineers.
Got it. All right. Well, we're so thankful that you found your way to here. We're glad that the camaraderie that exists in the RAC Vet program, which is a very formalized group of we call them employee resource groups here at Rackspace, and that the impact that that's had. And Shelby, thank you so much for helping us to find more of them and helping our vets through that transitioning process of being however long they were in the military to that next step, because it's a different interviewing world. It's a different experience. So thank you for what you're doing here at Rackspace to help support that. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for another episode here of our Solve Live. And if you guys want to reach out and learn more about what we do here, just solve@rackspace.com. Follow me on LinkedIn. Send me a note there on LinkedIn or Twitter. I follow LinkedIn probably a little bit more. But I'd love to engage in a conversation with you guys. But for today, for Thursday, for Veterans Day, I want to thank again our veterans. We couldn't literally exist as a nation, as a people, without the service that you do and the selfless service that you do. So wherever in the world you are, we are grateful for it. And I think the last thing that I would say also is, while we are supporting and celebrating today our United States veterans, we do engage with veterans groups all around the world, in the UK and all throughout. So we salute you wherever you may be. Thank you so much, everyone, and have an amazing day. My name is Jeff DeVerter, and I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace. I hope you have a great day.